Hello, Libra. How's everybody doing? I'm going to be giving you your December forecast. Okay, this month, a lot of people are going to be confused. There's a lot of miscommunication. We have a Mercury retrograde. We have a lot of Neptune energy that's clouding everybody's vision, maybe causing us to romanticize things. I don't think everybody's seeing too clearly right now. That's all going to be unraveling throughout this month. There is some good lucky days that we'll keep an eye on, but let's just jump right into it. On the 1st, Mercury entered your 4th house of home, family, living situation, property, and private life. So Mercury is the planet of communication. It's speaking, talking, writing, using your voice. It's where your mind is at. So what you're thinking about, your ideas, what you're talking about, who you're talking about it with, and how you are discussing it in the details of such. It's also things like short trips, transportation, siblings, getting from point A to point B. It's things in your everyday familiar environment, self-expression or communication. So having that go through your 4th house, there might be discussions on moving. There could be things around the home. There could be just more of a social energy when it comes to family. It's the holidays, so it's like you might just be hanging out with family a lot more. There might just be a general sense of boosted stimulation or cerebral intellectual energy in this area of the chart. It could even be like reading about things that have to do with like your internal world or self-help or therapy as well, because it's the more private area of your chart. On the 3rd, Venus in your 1st house. It's leaving your 1st house, squared Pluto in your 4th house. So Venus, as I'm recording this, has already entered Scorpio, but before it ingressed into your 2nd house, it had to do this intense moment between your 1st house of self and identity. So who you are, what you look like, your identity, coming into a little bit of a conflicting aspect with your area of, 4th house, home, family, living situation, property, private life, etc. So Pluto is very intense. It has a lot to do with personal transformation, a death and rebirth process, a lot of intensity, a lot of profound truth, even if sometimes that truth is a little bit harsh. So to have Venus being the planet of love, money, beauty, pleasure, typically Venus-Pluto aspects are going to show a level of intensity between love, romance, finances, things like that. So to have a conflicting sort of aspect between who you are as a person and then where you come from, your private life, your home, your family, your roots, your ancestry, there could have been something very intense for some people that was like a generational thing, or a big need to confront something with like a family member, or the truth of who you are based off of where you come from. For other people, it could have just been like something where your family doesn't agree with something that you did, or there was a need to have an intense conversation about like what you're going to do despite what that means for your family, or if there's some sort of disagreement between those two areas of the chart. There could have been some tension between self, identity, who you are, and then again, where you come from, your roots, what is maybe expected of you from family, etc. On the 4th, Venus entered into your 2nd house. So thankfully, that was a very short-lived aspect. It was something that only lasted literally a day. And again, as I'm recording this, it's the 5th. So on the 4th, Venus then entered into your 2nd house. So this is a great time for money because Venus, again, is the planet of love, money, beauty, pleasure, indulgence, ease. Typically, wherever it transits is going to bring that sense of ease. It's a warmth. It makes things a little bit more enjoyable, a little bit more lighthearted, a little bit more frivolous in some cases. So to have that go through your 2nd house of possessions, income, money, things that you buy for yourself, things that are in your name. It's also self-worth. It's things that kind of reflect like what you value. It's getting your basic needs met. This can also be a time of like, I know this is silly, but like overeating, over-consuming, overspending, because it's like the 2nd house, think of it as the body, as things like, or like bringing things into your home. It's like you're bringing a sense of ease or pleasure to things that now belong to you. Shopping a lot, retail therapy, overeating, because you're enjoying yourself. There's a sense of pleasure here. I don't think it's anything to like slap you on the wrist for, but it's just something to pay attention to. It can also look like getting a boost in income. Other people giving you money, other people giving you gifts, getting a promotion, monetizing something, coming up with something that sort of generates a bigger sense of income, or just pouring into yourself like self-love, oh my God, I can't speak today. I had too much coffee. Self-love rituals, or things that kind of boost your expectations, standards, the things that are valuable to you. On the 5th, so today, Venus in your second house is trining Saturn in your 6th house. This is more beautiful energy, again, financially, especially in regards to your work or your occupation or the labor of what you do to make money, because Saturn is a little bit more serious of a planet. While Venus is like this feel-good energy of this is something I want, this is something that feels good, it's pleasurable, Saturn's a little bit more serious and disciplined and responsible and committed and does the things that are necessary, even if they're not that fun, because it's important to get them done, sort of thing. So to have a positive aspect between the two of those planets, it's saying there's still an offer or an incentive of something feeling really good, but there's also a sense of responsibility or commitment or hard work being paid off that's allowing you this sort of pleasure. It's kind of celebratory energy to me personally, because I feel like it's like seeing the hard work pay off of something that maybe others are seeing the celebration of. Like maybe you just bought yourself a house, maybe you just celebrated with getting yourself your first designer bag, like things like that. But what you know is that you were able to get that for yourself based off of how much effort, energy, or things that were exerted or invested in from you into this thing to get that end result. So what I'm saying is this is between your second house of money, again, self-worth, things that are valuable, in your sixth house of work, health, routine, lifestyle, efforts, struggle, typically where you're either putting a lot of energy into working, like for a job, for your career, for your boss, with coworkers, or working for the sake of other people by like helping or volunteering or even like doing charity work, things like that. It's also pets. It's also like what time you get up in the morning, the food that you eat, the routines that you have. It's a very mundane area of the chart for some people. It's like if you work out, things like that can be present here. So to have that between your sixth and your second house, maybe this is even like your standards are raising because you worked on your body all year and you're really starting to love yourself and see how much discipline you put into yourself. And now you're like, actually, I require this out of people as well. This is going to show a lot of support between your finances, income, efforts, the workplace, habits paying off, attention to basic needs, and building a very stronger foundation for yourself in general. Access to basic resources as well. There could also be changes too, I would say, in your diet, like literally what you're consuming, and maybe a sense of discipline or responsibility around those things. On the 7th, Neptune is going to station direct in your 6th house. So this has been retrograde since June 30th. Neptune is the planet of dreams, spirituality. It's very artistic. It's very spiritual. It's very faithful. It's very ethereal. It's very intoxicating. It's beautiful. It's angelic, but it's also very manipulative and deceptive and confusing, and sometimes even intentionally so. So the thing that's a little bit challenging with Neptune is that it promises us this very indulgent, like exciting, intoxicating energy, but sometimes it's at the hand of not seeing things entirely too clearly, or we're missing some details, or we're romanticizing something, or the lines are blurred a little bit, and that's why it's so enjoyable. It's like being sold a dream or a fantasy or a vision more than seeing the reality of a situation. So to have this stationing direct in your 6th house, there could have been some lack of energy, lack of the ability to execute, a lot of one foot in, one foot out when it comes to, do I do this? Do I not do this? Do I want this? Do I not want this? Or just general like haze when it comes to, again, your work, your health, your lifestyle, your routines, your day-to-day basic requirements to run what is a well-oiled machine of who you are on a day-to-day basis. This is going to appointments. Again, it's like your sleep schedule. It is the foods that you eat. It is the what is expected out of you in terms of effort in your relationships, things like that, your physical body as well. So if there's been any like confusion around symptoms or a diagnosis or your job description or maybe even just losing motivation when it comes to like staying on top of those ritualistic routines, that can start to now resume regularly scheduled programming and become a little bit more clear. There can be an awakening. There can be a reality check. There can be a sense of like crystal clear understanding after a time of maybe a lot of haze. On the 10th, Venus in your 2nd house also, because it's a more mundane area of the chart, things that have gone missing or lost might start to pop up again. On the 10th, Venus in your second house is going to be opposite Jupiter in your 8th house. So this is a really good luck day for everybody across the board. Venus and Jupiter are both benefic planets, meaning they want to give you things, they want to grant you things, they want to give you opportunity, ease, pleasure, joy, far more than they want to give you problems. At the very worst, it can be functioning in excess. It can be, buying too much, eating too much, spending too much, etc. So to have that opposition to Jupiter in your 8th house of now what you share with other people, the second house is what belongs to you, the 8th house is what belongs to others or what is shared with you. To have that sort of, oh my God, I literally cannot speak today. I'm sorry. To have that sort of opposition between talking about the value of things, assets, possessions between you and other people, like a lot of transactions, it can be a lucky day where you get a good gift, where you have a good investment payoff, where you get a lot of money, where you get to see a sense of abundance, whether that's given to you or you've earned it for yourself. It's really great for finances, investments, seeing something that you invested in paying off in a very big way, literally or metaphorically. So if it's not financial, it can be something that you've energetically put a lot of time and effort and attention into, now coming back to you. If there's like some sort of what's the word I'm looking for, like divvying up of assets between you and somebody else. Maybe you're getting divorced and you're deciding, what assets are mine, what are yours. Maybe you are leaving your business partnership or something and you're splitting everything up between one another. It can really go in your favor. It's also a great day to like play the lotto or something financial. Maybe bet, gamble a little bit, but don't go overboard. That's the big warning with this. The 12th, don't gamble any money you're not willing to lose. This is not financial advice. On the 12th, there's a new moon in your 3rd house. So new moons are new beginnings, a new chapter starting, a conception of a new era, basically, whether that be the unraveling of the next 2 weeks over the span of, in a longer sense, the next 6 months. And this new moon is going to be in your 3rd house. So this is really, again, the environments, the people, and the things that are most familiar to you on a day-to-day basis. It's your habits, your routines, your environments, your car, your siblings. It's the coffee shop you go to every single morning. It's the podcast you listen to every day. It's the book you read before bed. It's the way that you talk to people. It's your attention to detail, what you bring up in the group chat, things like that. Things that are very typical to your everyday life. So having a new moon here can sometimes look like learning a new skill, getting a new car. It can be making a new friend. It can be being more social. It can be deciding, okay, I'm going to communicate in this way because the other way wasn't cutting it. There can be any sort of new chapter in regards to the way you speak, talk, write, communicate, navigate, transportation again, get around, or just the way that you work with other people. Also, like maybe your aesthetic online, like what you post on social media, content creation, things like that. On the 13th, Mercury is going to station retrograde in your 4th house. So we talked about Mercury entering your 4th house at the beginning of the month. So this was bringing, again, conversations, intellectual energy, cerebral stimulation to the private area of your life, things happening behind closed doors, but living situation, family plans, your childhood, your roots, your, environment, things like that. So to have a Mercury retrograde here, the things that you might have been talking about, communicating about, thinking about the first half of the month might now become a little bit up for reconsideration. I don't necessarily agree with the things that I was thinking of the first half of the month. I wasn't entirely right about that, or let me make sure that's actually true, or let me connect the dots and double check that that's correct. There can just be either doubling down, a backtracking, let me think about it a little bit longer, let's put this on the back burner, or even bringing things up from the past. So maybe going back to an old apartment building you used to live in, bringing up a conversation from something that happened in the past with your family, even just being nostalgic, looking at old pictures, things like that. It doesn't have to necessarily be problematic. It's just an area of the chart that this month you want to pay attention to, especially if you're signing leases or contracts in regards to real estate, because it's very likely to change this month. So just be willing to be flexible in this area of the chart. On the 17th, the sun in your 3rd house is going to square Neptune in your 6th house. So this is now adding a little bit of confusion, a lack of clarity, a blurring of the details when it comes to speaking, talking, writing, using your voice, self-expression, attention to detail, particularly communication, written, verbal, emails, whatever it is, and your 6th house of work, health, routine, lifestyle, co-workers, efforts, pouring your energy into things like that. So there could be something like medical or in regards to to your job that is like not being communicated entirely clearly, whether that be on your end or the person or the thing that you're communicating with. So you really want to trust your gut too when it comes to like friendships and boundaries within friendships, what is expected of you effort-wise within your friendships, anything around like the car or the route that you take to work, maybe getting a little bit more complicated. There can be a general sense of things just not adding up. And again, this doesn't have to always be malicious. It can just be like an accident or something, having some sense of missing information when it comes to like an email with a coworker or a colleague. There can be something with your pets and, you know, being a little bit confusing. There can be even changes in your lifestyle that maybe you are ramped up about and excited about because you're like, oh, this is something new that I'm going to start doing, but you're not realizing that maybe you're biting off more than you can chew, or you're not entirely aware of the amount of effort or responsibility that comes with this thing. It can also be with how you're helping other people and they're just being a miscommunication or not seeing eye to eye or being on two totally different pages when it comes to a friend, a coworker, or someone that you're just generally communicating with. On the 22nd, the sun is going to enter your 4th house of home, family, and living situation. So again, this is going to be one of those areas of the chart that's just very prominent for you this month. The 4th house of your home, family, living situation, and your 3rd house of like the people and the things most familiar to you on a day-to-day basis and how you're communicating about them. So having the sun enter here is just going to join the party in the sense of putting an extra spotlight on this area of the chart for the month now that Mercury is already there. Mercury's kind of brought the attention and like thinking about it, having ideas about it, talking about it, and now the sun is bringing a sense of authority, creativity, ego, a spotlight to this area of the chart. On the 25th, Venus in your 2nd house is going to trine Neptune in your 2nd house. So this is a supportive aspect between Venus being ease, pleasure, enjoyment, maybe money, a boost of income, things feeling generally favorable for you in your 2nd house of money, finances, possessions, investments, what is yours, what belongs to you, your standards, your expectations, what is of personal value to you, and a supportive aspect to Neptune in your 6th house. So again, any sort of confusion, general lack of information or details not adding up in your 6th house of work, health routine, lifestyle, pets, etc. Having, again, more 2nd and 6th house harmony is showing that I think you're getting what is deserved for the effort that you're putting into something. Or maybe this is a need to ask for more from somebody or something. This could be a good time to maybe ask for a promotion. This can also be a good time to just say like, listen, I've been doing X, Y, and Z. Like, I think I deserve a little bit more when it comes to this. That can be something that can work in your favor as well. You want to be clear with the communication and again, be open to the fact that, or flexible to the fact that this is susceptible to change as well throughout the month. On the 27th, you're going to be having a full moon in Cancer in your 10th house. So again, now that career is a little bit more relevant, I think some people are going to be getting more for themselves and getting promotions. And I think some people are like, I'm actually going to leave my job and I'm just not going to work here anymore, because having a full moon is usually an ending, a closure, a closing of a chapter. And it doesn't have to be dramatic. It can be the tying up of loose ends or just generally having a full circle moment in regards to your career, your public image, your reputation, your accomplishments, and what other people can publicly see about you, especially in a professional standpoint. So to have a full moon here, this is actually going to be a callback to July 17th, because this is when we had a new moon in Cancer. So this is bringing a lot of attention to something that started or was conceived or began back then, and now seeing the full circle moment of that. This can even just be a change in positions in your job. If it's nothing to do with your career or your occupation, or if you're self-employed, this can be what other people can see about you succeeding in. So for example, for some people, this can be, especially with the 6th house being ignited, maybe you had like a major weight loss, and it's like now everybody can publicly see that because of things that you're posting on social media, and you began the journey back in July. Like things like that can be very likely here as well if it's not so aligned to your career. On the 27th, Chiron is going to station direct in your 7th house of relationships, business partnerships, and this will also be a callback to July. So Chiron isn't a planet. It's an asteroid that has to do with sensitivities, wounds, triggers, where we typically have a general sense of unresolved issues or pain. Having it station retrograde is different for everybody across the board. I would say for some people, it gives them the chance to put pain on the back burner and not allow it to stop them for some time. And for other people, they might feel suffocated by it, but it gives them the time to reflect on that pain and work on it. So once it stations direct, it usually gives you the opportunity to now get the healing end of the pain and say, say, okay, I can acknowledge that this pain does exist, but how can I work with it efficiently to use it as something that's aiding in the healing process? To have that in your 7th house of relationships, that's really going to bring a sense of focus and attention to the people closest to you. Romantic relationships, business partnerships, interpersonal relationships, contracts, marriage, things that you are in a shared goal with when it comes to the collaboration or cooperation with other people is going to be present here. And again, for more context, you can look back to July 23rd of this year. It doesn't have to be that particular day, but that might have been where if you can recognize any sort of particular pattern or looming energy that's been consistent since July, now that it's stationing direct, it's going to resume regularly scheduled programming. On the 28th, Mercury retrograde in your 3rd house is going to conjoin Mars, and it's going to square Neptune in your 6th house. And this is the day for every zodiac sign that I'm like, just shut your mouth, just observe and take notes before you get out there in the field and start fighting, because Mercury is already retrograde. It's not functioning entirely too smoothly. It doesn't love being retrograde because it's not operating as it typically would. It's already in a harsh condition. Having it in Sagittarius, it doesn't love being in Sagittarius because Sagittarius, Mercury in Sagittarius, cannot always be a truth teller. It can conflate the truth. It can exaggerate. It can tell a white lie. It can blow things out of proportion. It can be a little bit inaccurate. It can be very changeable and kind of skitchety. So then to also have a square to Neptune blurring the lines, confusing things, malicious intent being deceptive, manipulation, non-malicious intent, confusing, lack of communication, totally unclear sense of delivery. And then to also now add Mars into the mix. Mars is the planet of like sticking up for yourself, defending yourself, fighting for what you believe in, confronting something, like getting out there and fighting, initiating something, going after what you want, going after your desires. All of this is a bunch of problematic energy next to each other, because I think a lot of people are either going to hit the ground running and like chase after this desire, not understanding what it really is, having an unclear promise, or again, almost overwhelming sense of optimism over something that they are not seeing too clearly. It's like not everything is what it seems at this time. And then also for other people, they might be fighting so much for what they believe in when what they're trying to fight about like isn't even true or doesn't even make sense or wasn't even accurate to begin with. I think this is something we'll more so see like politically and in the news of just a bunch of yapping and screaming over nothing that's even adding up. But this is going to be happening between your 3rd house and your 6th house. So again, there's just a general sense of communication and things that should, again, typically be like assumably going easy. Things that are in your everyday life. It's your very mundane habits and routines. It's the things that are typically very familiar and almost like on autopilot or involuntary for you, just now becoming very frustrating and needing to confront something with that. So with Mars in the 3rd house, because the 3rd house is a communication house, you might be the one getting out of pocket and going after people or verbally like saying something that you need to like dial back on and make sure is actually true. Are you sure you want to commit to this stance? Is this a permanent decision? Can you take back what you're going to say if you don't mean it in a week? Those are the things you want to pay attention to. So I would just try to a little bit, just because over the next few days and weeks, you might find that like you were jumping the gun a little bit, not because I don't trust your own judgment. And again, this can be something with work, with health. I feel like some people are literally, some Libra risings are like walking out of their job being like, fuck you, I'm not coming back. And I don't know if that's the best thing to be doing this week or this month. On the 29th, Venus, though, thankfully is easing any conflict, and it's bringing a sense of pleasure and release and general soothing of the wound to that communication area. So throughout the month, as you're having complications or confusion or just a lot of like nothing is making sense this month, Venus comes in and is like, shh, it's okay, and kind of soothes it out a little bit. This is really good for, again, traveling. If you're doing anything for New Year's, I would definitely recommend hanging out with friends or getting out of the city, going somewhere for the weekend. I think that would be very beneficial for you. And then it brings a lot of ease to communication. So if there's been issues with people too, where you're just not seeing eye to eye, I think by the end of the month, you start to like agree to disagree or have some sort of compromise. On the 31st, Jupiter is going to station direct in your 8th house. It's been retrograde since September 9th. Jupiter, again, is the planet of good luck, good fortune, windfalls of success, abundance. It wants to give you things. having it go retrograde isn't necessarily revoking you of things or, doing the opposite, but it can kind of be, again, overindulgent or functioning in excess or looking inward so much that we're not seeing external sort of like lucrative or resourceful abundance, but rather doing a lot of the spiritual work first. So having it stationed direct can kind of resume, again, regularly scheduled programming in that area of the chart. And the 8th house is very financial. It's very energetic. It has a lot to do with trust. Again, how we overlap with other people. Things that are like, banking, property, finances, investments, the important foundational things in life. I would also say too that this is going to be just a day, it's a notable day to pay attention to, or a notable transit, 444 on the clock, because it's stationing at the same degree that we had the lunar eclipse on the October 28th at. So that lunar eclipse was actually a full moon lunar eclipse, so a big dramatic ending, closing of a cycle that began actually way back in late 2021 in your 8th house. So if you can think back to late 2021, there might have been something new, financial, energetic, or having to do with personal transformation that started to begin for you in a very strong undercurrent way. It might not have been something intense that you realized every single day of your life, but rather something that was maybe happening in the background. And you had a lot of lessons over the last 2 years in the Taurus area of your chart, sharing with other people, trusting other people, intimacy, pouring into other people, things like marriage, things like roommates, things like sex, things like having to let go and transform, become a new version of yourself. So to have that really major ending on October 28th at 5 degrees and now having Jupiter station at 5 degrees, it's sort of this baton pass of what you've let go of around Halloween of this year is now being replaced with something far more abundant, giving you much more fertile ground to grow something new to replace it. So there's a lot going on for you this month. I think there's probably going to be a focus on property or living situation for a lot of people. I think 2 different ways that this can manifest. In a literal physical sense, jobs and living situation, I think, are big, and communication. In a more spiritual sense, I think it has a lot to do with energetic ties to other people based off of our roots and who we are at the core, based off of generational patterns and things like that, and talking about them. So it's a very eventful month. If you guys want to comment, let me know what you're going through. I'd love to hear about it. I hope you guys have an amazing December. If you want a personal reading, you can book one at kmoney.biz. Everything that you need will be in the description or the bio, whatever it is, below. I hope you guys have an amazing end of the year, and thank you so much for watching.